morning,
Good
sunshine.
morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I did my homework.
On?
The Four Horsemen.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like
It's interesting, isn't it?
it's scary. I didn't like get a Bible and read Revelations, but I was Googling and I found a YouTube video. It was like 7 minutes long of this guy describing what they are and what they represent. And it has this like ominous music in the background and this deep voice. And I was like, oh, great. We're all screwed. Yeah.
Did you find any things consistent with what's happening today?
Little bit. Yeah. So it's interesting. It was talking about how like the first horseman, this white horse is there's two words associated with it, but it's basically like one means kind of plague or sickness, and then I can't remember the other word associated with it, but yeah, basically some sort of sickness or plague or whatever. And I mean, we've seen that, which I feel like we've kind of seen that over different years. You know, I feel like a lot of these things we've seen not just today, but yes, today. You know, the second horse obviously being war and death, and not so much death, but war and fighting. And it even said even fighting among families, among friends, among people, internally with yourself. And I was like, yep, seeing that. Starvation or lack of food or things of that nature. I'm like, oh, because the price of eggs went up and everybody was saying groceries are expensive, and then people get starved out. And then the last one being death itself, I guess, which is like a combination of everything and just kind of comes to finish us all off. And it's a real fun story. If anyone wants to brighten their morning, listen to that video.
And a lot of like the same Nostradamus logic applies to this. Like people will get look into the words and find applicable things that are happening and say, oh, this lifetime, this is the end of the world lifetime, I'm living in it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you look at the allegory nature of the Bible anyhow, and, framing it in a way to introspective and, keeping yourself in check. And so you can make an argument that everything that the four horsemen have brought in those stories have been brought in some density throughout all of history. So everybody can lay claim that this is end times and whatnot.
Yeah. And that's what I kept thinking is like, when people nowadays say, oh, this is it, this is end times, look at all the things that they're saying was going to happen, it's happening. And I was like, but we've also had other famine and war and plagues, so to speak. So it's like, okay, so it wasn't end times then, and then we thought end times were here again, and it wasn't, and now end times are here again, and it's like, I don't know, how do you predict that this four horsemen idea or this apocalypse is approaching when it sort of just keeps reoccurring?
So my prediction is you're going to know. It's going to be so absurd and so out of the norms of what nature can provide that you'll know. Like raining frogs and locusts the size of horses. And it's going to be absurd and you'll know. Like
you'll be like, there's no way we can rationalize this. Yeah. This is a sign of end times. And then what? What are you going to do? Like if you personally... If we had a sign, like it was raining frogs, it was whatever, and you were like, oh my gosh, it's real, it's happening, what do? Wait for it?
No, you go make right by everything and fix everything, get your house in order if it starts out. Because do you think it's going to be like a one day all the shit's going to happen, or do you think it's going to stretch out over years?
I don't know. I mean, supposedly Christianity, the Bible teaches us that you don't wait till then to get things in order. You just stay ready. You stay with your house in order and live like Jesus and all this stuff, because you don't know,
right,
if it's coming.
Well, here's going to be your cues. I'm going to pay attention to this, but I'm not. If I get word from on high that it's starting to happen, I'm not going to tell anybody, right? And because I don't want to be kookified and I don't want to be wrong, right?
Too late. Just kidding.
But if I get super polite with everyone, you'll know. Super polite.
You're like, I'm unbothered by everybody.
Exactly.
I'm gonna just be virtuous.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
no,
If you,
isn't there an idea though that and again, I don't know a whole lot about the Bible, but I used to work with someone that was pretty religious, and she would always talk about, is it the rapture, where they, like, all the good people are just suddenly gone. Everybody's gone, and if you're there and everyone else is gone, you know you are not the good person.
You were not on that
you
bus.
weren't taken. Yeah.
Yep.
So really though, how do you know then if we are seeing signs of end times and you're still here? That can't be a good thing, because
Now,
you would
here's
just
what
be
you
gone,
do.
right?
Here's if you notice that, it's Negan time, because honestly, all of the evil people will only be left. So the pressures of good will be gone from this world. You take your baseball bat, you wrap it in barbed wire, you put it on your leather jacket, and you go full Negan and make the best of the hell that you're left in.
You got to just make yourself the dominant.
Yeah, you missed the bus.
And
they're not sending another one for you. So you might as well be the best demon that you can be.
Yikes.
Anyway, switching gears. So we were talking about home prices yesterday and the cost of things and the sort of like inauthentic world that we live in, the illusion of the world we live in. So I had a ton of little debates about this yesterday, but the one person brought up that in real estate, okay, so you have these things that are becoming more valuable, and in any grift, there's going to be someone who has nothing involved with it that comes and takes a portion of your value. They think they're entitled to the portion of your value, and they try to rip it out, right? Just like when you win the lottery, you have a bunch of people who are like, I'm not involved, but let's see if I can let's see if I can get some of your value.
Let me tell you what you should do with your money.
And we have a lot of friends, even a couple of the hosts here, that are realtors. And this is a scammy industry, and it's never popular because they absolutely defend
real estate's a scammy industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the deal is that realtors take like 8% of a sale in exchange for brokering the sale, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have $100,000 house and you sell it, $8,000 goes down to the buying and selling agents of the house, right? So if you spend this money, like if you write an $8,000 check, the person that's giving you the service has to give you something of value for what you're writing the check, is essentially. So if the real estate person makes your life easier, then you're gonna be like, okay, well, I paid for the service of someone else filling out the paperwork and doing it accurately and me not making mistakes. There's a value in that. If the broker gets you a better price than you could get yourself, then you're like, okay, well, they got me $10,000 more a house and only it cost me 8,000. That's a really, really good deal. But once you get to a certain level, I don't know that you could justify it. So if it's an 8% on $1 million house, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. If you're collecting $80,000, how can you give someone? How many hours can you work? How many listing postings can you do? How many showings can you do? How much more value can you pump out of the deal at a clip of $80,000? How? Now, I would be cool if everything was like flat rate, right? You sell a house, you do the same things to be able to sell the house. You write a check for the flat rate, and they do the same thing for that exchange for that rate. You try to get them the best deal, and I think that's a more fair deal. What do you think of the percentage exchange on real estate, especially on the higher side?
So I have a quick story that I would love to share on this topic, because it's something that actually happened to me several years ago, and I'm still salty about it. And I've actually thought like, oh, I should really ask Luke and Isaac about this, if this is the norm or if we got shafted. Maybe we didn't, and then I can quit feeling salty. But our first house that we ever owned, we went to sell it. We were going to move kind of like one town over, get a new house. And as we're in the process of working with a realtor, and we're talking about putting our house on the market, wasn't on the market yet, I was on Facebook one day, and I see another agent's Facebook post that says, I have a buyer looking for so many bedroom, either garage or covered, whatever, blah, 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 so many square feet. And I was like, oh, that sounds like my house. This dude. Like, I got everything. I got everything you need. So I messaged the person on Facebook and I said, hey, FYI, I am about to move. Our house is about to go on the market. It's not yet, but it sounds exactly like what your buyer's looking for. And she's like, oh, could I set up a time to come see it? Absolutely. So she called me. We set up a time. I met her at our house. It was somebody coming from out of state. So she did like a little videoing of it and everything and showed it around. She's like, thanks so much. She sent it to her client, contacted me days later and said, it's exactly what he's looking for. Don't put it on the market. Hold off and we will give you full asking price. If you just give it to us now, don't list it. And I was like, we were on a time crunch. So I was like, you got it. Let's do this. The real estate agent I was working with, talking about, okay, we got to get this house ready and then we're going to list it. We're going to whatever, said, okay, I'm going to take less of a commission. At the time, it was like 6%. He says, I'm not going to take that much because like I literally just sold my house. I found the buyer. I scheduled them to do a walkthrough. We discussed it, everything. He's doing the paperwork. So he said he would take less. I'm like, thank you. That's great. Thanks. Closing did not take less. Took full commission for the sale of my house. Should I be salty?
Yes.
Because I am so salty about that.
Yeah.
I sold my house.
Yeah. They didn't have to negotiate. They didn't do all the things that are a benefit for the service that you're using. They did negotiate the price. They offered full listing for it.
Yeah.
They did the paperwork, which if you go to your accountant or your attorney and they file paperwork, they have a rate. That's what they will probably do. The part that they did should be piecemealed out of that, and you should pay them for that part. But all right, so here, the reason I think the industry is so difficult is because there are a ton of real estate agents, and not all of them are very successful real estate agents.
Yeah.
They might show 20 houses and never collect any commission.
Yeah.
All right. They might not get any money with all this effort and all the phone calls they make and everything they did. $0 goes into their account. So that when they come across one that they do sell, that backfills all of the unsuccessful ones that they hit. And they're like, finally, I made some money. But if you have unsuccessful ones and then you only get a little slice of that one, that makes sense on the realtor's end. And that's why they defend their commissions. But what about you as the seller? How long in a normal economy does it take to get an 8% return on your real estate? You might have to be in a house for 5 years to get 8%. And then who gets the 8% of the increased value on your house for your improvements and the changes of the economy? The real estate agent took all of that, right? And especially if they didn't do a whole lot of stuff, why are they deserving of what it took you 5 years to accumulate?
Yeah. And I mean, it was the same agent that helped us look for the next home. So I tried to justify to myself, like, well, he did show us other houses and he met us on the weekends and in the evenings to show us things we were interested in. But again, at the same time, but then he got commission on that. So on the sale of mine and us buying the next one he got. And I was just like, and again, we found the house. We said, here's one we're kind of interested in. Can you set up a showing? And then we said, we'll take it. And I was like, this is the easiest freaking money this dude has ever made. I feel like.
Well, and that's what I say, when you have an asset like a house and you own it for a long time and you do the upkeep and improvements, it goes up in value. But you have 3 people that have you ever looked at your mortgage documentation?
No. Okay.
So at the top line, it tells you what your purchase price of the house is. And if you pay your mortgage over the course of the thing, how much you will have paid for that house. Yeah. And we'll say it's double. So you put down $50,000 and by the time you've paid it off, you've actually paid $100,000. All right. So the bank's interest on the mortgage takes a chunk out of its value out. So, if you resell it in 20 years from now and it's worth, 75% more, you only made a little bit on that. Then you get your property taxes. That's another value that's taken out of the chunk of that asset. And then you have the real estate. When it's all said and done, you might be no further ahead. So the bank made money on my house, the city made money on my house, and the realtor made money on my house. You're the only one that doesn't get money because you hit a windfall and everybody's lined up to take a piece of your windfall.
Yeah. And then what sucked even more, just some salt in the wounds, is that second house we bought, unbeknownst to us, had so many problems. We had to fix the foundation, windows that were leaking, like all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, I am so glad everyone profited off of this house except for us.
That's exactly right. So I'm going to, the same response to that. Anybody who's lined up to take chunks of value, decouple it so that they have to justify, just like the fire department has to justify spending money on a new engine. They go to you and you get to say yes or no. Right.
Yeah.
Now, realtors will say that that's a negotiable rate. You can set the percentage. Right. You can say before they even take it on, whether or not, I want to pay 2% on this, got $1 million house. I'm willing to part with $20,000 of value. Who wants to take it? And the group will probably reject that, because if everybody did that, then they would make no money and it would not be a lucrative profession at all. But if every time they showed your house, you wrote them a check for $200, right?
Yeah.
And every time that they did paperwork, you gave them $1,000 to put it through. And if you fetched them above an asking price, if they got you a better deal, then you give them a percentage of what they negotiated you. I think that's more fair, and it wouldn't erode it on the wholesale, right, of so much value of the overall selling price.
Yeah, kind of like see how it's going through the process, because your cut could ebb and flow based on what you do or don't do.
Yeah, so that I agree with whoever was debating me on that. They've got a point that real estate, the realtor profession, takes a big chunk out of the value of the consumer's asset.
Is that why there's so many? Like, I don't know how it is around here just yet, but down south, like, oh my God, like hundreds and hundreds in every town of realtors.
Oh, for sure.
And I was like,
yeah,
you can't all be making that much money.
You nail a $500,000 house and you do it on the weekends. Think about how much money you can slam in the bank. Now, they have the house that governs them. They split it with them, right? So the brokerage house had their network and their advertising and their licensing, and they manage the people that are underneath them. But they're divvying their money up pretty good.
We were at a bowling alley one time. This was down south. Some friends, and we were in a group of people, and over next to us was a group of friends celebrating. And this girl, she's probably 20 something, was pretty sloshed and celebrating. And she's like, I'm celebrating. I sold a house today. Drinks on me. She's like, I just made so much money. And I'm just like, wow, like that must be why there's so many. But
Absolutely.
I've also heard, I have a realtor friend that said, when you get into it, don't expect to make any money for like 5 years. By the time you're paying back everything you paid into it for licensing and things like that, it's like, it's 5 years that you've got to work before you really start seeing any profit.
Yeah. So I think that industry should change. I think it's, I have a big annoyance with something for nothing, no value returns on things. And that's why we rail against government, because you do not get a good value for having a government that's so inefficient, costs so much, and then what they deliver to you are not the priority.
And it's not even really one of those situations we were talking about yesterday of like, oh, we complain about something, but it's the consumer doing it. With this, like, you don't have a choice unless it's sell it
on
yourself,
your own. Absolutely.
By owner or whatever. But if you do want to use an agent, you don't have a choice.
Right.
It is this. These are the terms. Take it or leave it. And it's like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, but hopefully with technology and AI, the systems are going to be more beneficial on the consumer end, because it doesn't require a person to do the stuff that the person is doing. I could be easily lined up, buyer and seller, employee to employer. All of this stuff could be digitally lined up rather than socially lined up.
I mean, heck, like Facebook. Somebody posted on Facebook through a social network. I got it. You want it? Take it. Done. Okay. All right. Next topic. So the defunding of PBS and NPR. So I want to bring a couple examples of, we have Harvard that was getting government funding, and they were participating in some things that didn't go along with the current administration's philosophy. And Department of Education, or the White House, basically said, "Hey, no more money for you until you fall in line and follow
civil rights laws and anti-Semitism laws and whatnot. Okay.
Mhm.
And same thing with PBS and NPR. They brought PBS, not so much. I believe it was NPR.
I was gonna say, isn't PBS viewer funded?
No, they get government money too. They're both
Oh.
being cut off by this administration.
I did not know that.
And so if they get their funding from the government then has strings attached to what they do and how they participate. So so do you believe that NPR should be a thing? Should there be a media source that is funded by the government? Does that seem like a bad idea to you?
It seems like that is going to be a biased media source. If they know where their money's coming from, they're going to cater to where the money's coming from.
Okay.
Whether it's government or whatever else.
Now, specifically when it was established, the government wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a news outlet that would just say nice things about the government. Hands off, can't tell you what to do, keep it separated, we'll do the funding, but you guys are unbiased. Now, what happens, though, when it naturally becomes biased? Okay, so when NPR was sitting in front of a hearing, like 80+% of the people who work there were liberal, right? We're very much on the Democrat side of things. So the reporting took on a bias just because the sheer number of people who were Democrats that freaking worked there.
Yeah.
So then it just became part of the Democrat apparatus, even if it was naturally occurring. I don't agree that it was naturally occurring. I think Democrats are really good at stacking certain people in different places, so they do get an advantage, strategic advantage in politics. Okay, but let's just assume that it became that naturally. Media sources just become liberal for some odd reason. Should then Republican taxpayers be forced to fund something that is 100% helping people they disagree with?
The other team. I wouldn't think so. Why would they want to do that?
I don't think it should.
Yeah.
I think same thing with Harvard shouldn't be getting government money. I don't think NPR should be getting government money. Just like the NFL, I don't think they should be getting government money. The Harvard University shouldn't be getting government money. I think they should all stand on their own. They should not be getting something for free, right?
Yeah.
They should figure out how to make the model work, period.
Because all these things deep down there, it's a business.
Yeah. Like Planned Parenthood is another thing. Planned Parenthood shouldn't get a dime of government money.
So how do they know what businesses should get government money and what shouldn't? I mean,
it starts out with a noble cause. You look at some kind of social need, and then you use an apparatus to be able to fill that social need.
Yeah.
And at the time, NPR, you wanted, like, I always associated NPR with the very neutral tone, no slant, just true
facts.
Just facts. So the government decided to we have all of these politically motivated networks. Let's give one that has no political motivation. It's just information. Be able to take information, give it to the people. Well, in a social media world, you don't really need that, right? Mm. It's not something there's lacking in the marketplace where we're not clamoring. Like if NPR disappeared tomorrow, aside from the people who like it as a source, there's not a need for it. There's so much information everywhere. If you have a biased government-funded news source, like that doesn't add advantage that something was missing naturally. So you can clearly cut that out as a non-need for government spending.
Yeah. I feel like there is so many biased news sources that I think it's getting harder and harder, even through social media and the internet, to find the truth. Yeah,
you don't need a government one if they're already represented in the marketplace. So that's what I'm saying. Like a government program is, I believe that a subsidy should be very short term. So if we don't have something in there, let's just say we don't have fiber optics, rural areas, no fiber optics, commercially, it's not viable for, one of the big cable companies to run infrastructure. So create a subsidy that makes something happen that was not authentically happening in the marketplace, get it done, and then remove ourselves from it. Now they can operate in a place that wasn't happening. They filled the void and then they're out. The void has been filled. But with government spending, the void is perpetual. Like they will never stop doing it because somebody was getting free money for not having to return any kind of value on.
Yeah, because then it's just good business.
Right. So the example of like Tesla and SpaceX and whatever, they get government contracts. They got subsidies in order to get started. There was an effort to get electric cars into the marketplace when it didn't make a whole lot of sense and it was too expensive and it just wasn't getting a foothold, and they wanted it to take a foothold. SpaceX, you had NASA program that, was anemic, apathetic, like wasn't really doing much. So we went to the private side and contracted to provide some kind of services. So my standard for government spending would be, you spent $1. Now tell me what that dollar buys, right? And if you spend that $1 and I got more than a dollar value out of it, then I'm willing to spend another $1 as long as you give me good value. So if you give it to SpaceX and they build a rocket and they take payload up to the ISS, you can say, at the end of the day, we put up X amount of dollars and here's what we got from it. That's the way that I justify whether or not it's good spending or bad spending. The Harvard deal. So where does Harvard money go? Well, the government gives money to Harvard. What is the currency there? What are they buying when they give money to Harvard?
I mean, you would hope that it goes towards programs, classes, materials needed to teach, things of that nature. Does it actually? I don't know. But one would think that if a university was getting money, it would then be to put out in their education tools, to put out students that are highly educated for the workforce, for things that are needed for things.
I think the biggest block of spending, I think Harvard is responsible for all of the salaries and the stuff that goes in education. The government spends money and puts money in there for research. All right. Now you have these specializations, these experts, and then we put grant money in front of them to be able to find cancer treatments. And, again, the marketplace is not providing. Let's use our institutions to be able to have findings. Right.
Yeah.
And so the question would be, is the research as valuable as what it's costing? Is the university doing it better than giving it to a private industry? And if the government was dealing with a private industry, you know what they would require? An output, right?
Yeah.
They would say, we're going to give it to you. And let's just say I give you $2 billion a year for cancer research. When we get to the end of the research, what did you find for $2 billion? Did you cure cancer? And if not, is there any incentive to the research to have findings and to be final? Or are you just hiring a bunch of people to go to perpetual actions to always be in cancer research, and you never have to find any kind of cures or advancements in cancer research? Now, if you gave it to a hospital who could then take the findings and use it in a hospital, there would be an incentive to come up with something, because now you add another product to a private hospital. So that's really where I think the majority of the conversation should be. If we cut off funding to research at Harvard, what then wouldn't we have access to? What would we lose by cutting off that funding?
Do they not have places like Harvard account for what they've done?
Oh, I'm sure. And I think it's a corrupt system. That's just my opinion, that I think you have a lot of sort of like starving researchers that stay along the universities and write a lot of research papers, and they're paid to do it. So if I know humanity, would it be worthwhile to always be in research mode? Yeah. You get done at a university, get paid well. It's really the only way within a university for scientists to make money. So I go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, two things. One, if you solve a problem, you're out of a job.
That's right.
And two, I mean, you even heard, like, during this election, I would always hear people say, well, Harvard University economic professor, whatever, says that this isn't going to work, and this politician's plan isn't going to work, and that's based off of a study out of Harvard or whatever it is. And then you have another institution that says, well, I think it is going to work. I don't think that person's thing is going to work. And who's right? Is one study biased, or just simply what they see? It's like, how do you trust it? How do you know?
Well, two things you'd have to prove to me is, number one, if there's a weaning off of the government money, for the first part, like what pressure stops them from, stopping the research and having some kind of conclusion. And the second one would be, if there's grant money to prove that global warming is happening, right? And to get the grant money, now your research and your findings have to go in line with what the people funding it want to find, then is your research any good if it was biased towards a certain end? Now, if it's like, if you said, is global warming happening, and you get the money anyway, then you can come up on either part of the findings. If you're blacklisted, right, if you say that global warming isn't happening and the research dollars are not there for disproving global warming, but there's a ton of government money to prove it, what do you think the findings are going to be? So it almost takes the collective knowledge and it biases it the same way that NPR. It might not have been on purpose, but you set the stage and make it very probable that the knowledge that you have followed the dollars that fund the research. And I don't want politics anywhere near. I want a researcher who's brilliant to go out there and make a name for themselves because of the quality of research they did, not that they were paying attention to who was willing to pay them for what the research says at the end of the day.
Yeah. Then you know what you can trust and what you can't.
But again, they wrap the funding dollars. So PBS is one of those, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think you pull money back from PBS, and what do you think the kicking puppies thing is in this example?
You're getting rid of education.
Sesame Street. And
yes, and you're gonna like harm our kids that need these educational programming to learn their numbers and colors and shapes and all this stuff. And now you're damaging your children.
You hate children.
Yes.
Right?
You kick children.
Planned Parenthood. What's the argument? You want to cut off funding for Planned Parenthood because they're the biggest abortionist industry
You're
leader?
A monster who doesn't like women's rights and women need this health care, and you're taking that away from women that maybe can't afford to go somewhere else for health care, and you're cutting into research for women's health issues, and I don't know what else they say.
But you see a theme here?
Yeah.
It's all so
you're a bad person.
The person that wraps up the good and the bad is responsible when it gets cut, not the person who targeted the misspending.
Yeah, I was looking into the supposed cuts to is it Medicaid? They're saying that the government's trying to cut, and oh my gosh, they're doing these cuts to Medicaid, and all these people are going to lose all this stuff. And I was like, really? That's not good. Like, let me see what's going on. Who's affected? When does this take place? And and I keep trying to find this horrific injustice, I think. And again, I'm new into looking into it. So
what'd you find? Because I'll tell you what I think.
Not a lot.
So if there's 12 million people that are going to be kicked off Medicaid, who are they?
From what I have seen, it's if you can work, they want you to work.
So people who shouldn't be on the system are the people that are going to lose it.
It directly stated, this does not apply to you if you have been found to physically be unable to do anything. I think it doesn't even apply to pregnant women. It doesn't apply to veterans. It doesn't apply to people that have different diseases and disabilities. Like, it's literally just, if you can work and you are able-bodied, you're going to go to work, is what I have found. And it even states, unless I'm mistaken, you either work or community service or school. So it's not even like we're forcing like elderly crippled people back into the workplace. Like that is not what it sounds to me like. It's simply like, if you're young and able-bodied and you're milking the system, we're going to find you and make you go back to work, is what it sounds like. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it's 100%, but the headline should be people on Medicaid that shouldn't be there are going to be taken off of Medicaid. That's the headline.
Yes, and they're like, oh, these people are going to just lose all this stuff. And I was like, not if you have it legitimately, you're not. And again, like I keep looking like, or the SNAP program, they're going to take away food from people. Again, they're going to say you can't buy junk food, candies and soda and all this stuff that makes you sick, thus then needing more medical help that you can't pay for. Then you adopt a disease that cripples you and you can't go to work and need Medicaid. Like, nothing about it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, of course, we don't want you to poison your body. Of course, we want you to contribute to society or go to school or find some community service. Like, why do people want the government to want people to become sickly and disabled and sloth-like? Like, that's not a life. That's depressing.
Let's dig into it. Why would the government want people to be dependent on government?
Because then they'll do what they tell them to do.
For sure. That's a really good strategy.
Yeah.
To be dependent on government.
Money, then you're going to do
then
what I
you
want
control
you to do.
people because they are dependent on you.
Like, hey, I pay for your entire life. I pay for your home. I pay for your utilities.
Vote for me.
I pay for your food. Guess what? I have an election year.
And that's why I say the Democrats are really good at integrating themselves into the necessities of your existence, because those become your voters for life. If you're giving people free stuff and you're making them completely dependent, like they don't have a choice, like getting people healthy and off the system breaks that whole thing. Now you're independent. You can do things for yourself. You don't need the government. How likely are you to neuter and make smaller government when you don't need them?
Yeah.
But if your check comes from the government and your needs are met by the government and you're dependent on them, you're going to like, I'm going to keep voting for that guy because I need the pot sweetened, not weaned off of.
Yeah. And I was just telling someone the other day, I was like, when it comes to politics and politicians, I don't like super love or super hate anyone. I can see goods and bads on both sides, but I am a fan of RFK Jr. And I said, and it's not about so much his background or his current position. And people want to say, but he does this or he doesn't do this. My biggest joy is that there is anybody saying, why don't we just get healthier instead of fighting over how we should get our health care? Instead of fighting over who's going to make me better, who's going to give me the proper meds, who's going to pay for my meds, who's going to pay when I can't work, who should pay, why don't you just not put yourself in that position, get healthier, and then you don't have to even worry about that. Like, to me, this is the biggest obvious thing. But nobody wants like that. Like, that's the harder option. Is that it? Like, well, it's harder for me to take care of myself. It's easier to fight over who should pay me money because I didn't take care of myself. That doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Generational. What's nice is we have everybody from Gen Z forward who are becoming more conservative because they're seeing how well the government takes care of and treats people. And they're smart enough to know that those people are being enslaved in a system that it would be almost impossible to escape from. Mm-hmm. That once you create that dependency, you're stuck there for life. So hopefully in the future, like when we talk to people about this, the disconnect between this level of logical thinking and how they think, there is a huge divide. They do not understand this at all.
Yeah.
And it makes it rough to have sort of like an academic debate about what should happen when there's such a separation between lines of thinking.
Absolutely. What's
Jerry says, I haven't had a chance to do research on all government fundings to nonprofit universities, but it's not just Harvard. Johns Hopkins gets $3 to $4 billion for R&D yearly from the government. In my opinion, should have been weaning cuts, say 25% reduction per year versus full cuts. Should also look at what it's used for and the research is, if the research is necessary. Absolutely. And just having an auditor, like the people who are in these accountability offices, they should give a report card on how well that money is being spent. And people who give great, byproducts of research spending should get more money. And people who don't give anything should be kept as far away from government funding as possible. So I'm with Jerry that both things, reducing the funding slowly over time and auditing more and being able to, like, if as consumers, we would never shop for this stuff. It would be if the government decided to say, hey, I'm going to use you as a vendor, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to stipulate everything that I have required to be able to get that funding. And there's going to have to be a product at the end of the day. Why does this funding seem to be completely void of strings when they deal with universities and government programs and whatever. If they're really good at stipulation, so much that we used to vend for the state of Ohio. We bailed out of vending because it was always this super low bid system where they eroded every bit of profit out of it. They were taking us for everything. Our value was like $1 an hour rather than, whatever.
Jeez.
So doing business with the state really was sucky because it was so hard to stay compliant and there was so much competition that it was almost not worth doing.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm a Harvard and I look and say, make sure that they're attaching the same kind of strings to what we're doing in research. And I'm going to say, they write a check and then they don't even know where it goes. And it's forever. And they issue another check. I'm like, I wish the state would have dealt with me like that, where they just write me endless checks. So those free, slick, great deals only apply to certain people in government, not everybody.
So how do you feel then about, I sort of have mixed feelings about the idea of reducing slowly over years. And it could be with this, it could be with a lot of things. We've all seen, I think, that this current administration and Trump is into going big. Like, you go hard and fast and make big cuts and everything. And a lot of people say, no, it should be more gradual, which I totally get. I could totally see being gradual, maybe more beneficial. How do you feel about the idea, on the other hand, though, of going bigger sends a bigger message, as in we're fixing this now, and I only got 4 years. Gradual will be nothing. Meaning if you say, I'm going to gradually do this, but I know in a couple of years, if I'm gone, everything I did is coming back anyways. Do you not want to push harder to make more of an impact in your time there?
So I don't think it's a principle you can apply universally. So let's just say you're doing a kitchen remodel, right? And you get to the kitchen and you start finding things, and if you're determining whether or not you slowly replace things and fix things over time, or you gut the thing and start over from scratch. Well, as a consumer, you would say there's things you're taking into account, right? If I gut it, then there's going to be some stuff that was usable that was actually pretty good. But then I got to work around those things. So you got to determine whether or not the gut and start from scratch, you're willing to pay the consequence of doing it quickly, versus the slow attrition deal where you can stage it over the course of a year. It's probably not as messy, not as disruptive. You can do this portion now and this portion. And so like, I can't universally predict whether or not it's going to be a full gut versus whatever. But when you take into account that you've got a time frame, you got to get it done within 4 years, or you got to trust that the next administration are going to continue the attrition till its completion. Like, if I was afraid we were going to hit midterms and then we were going to lose our what's that called?
Like momentum?
No, we have more of it than the other person. I can't think of the word.
Like our lead, our
majority. You lose the majority. And what are the chances that now that you're in the minority, now you can't get anything done? So you're on a time scale that says, all right, gutting it is the way that we got to go. If we end up removing pieces that we needed, we'll put it back there. So that's what that seems like the safest strategy for right now.
Yeah. Julie says those in rural communities and seniors in long-term facilities will suffer the most. Cut out fraud in these programs. Fine. The cuts are so massive, the most deserving will be hurt.
Yeah. That's the casualties of, but you made that decision when you extended the benefit to those people, not when you're removing the benefit to those people. So it should be an overall policy that we don't capture people and make them dependent, because then in the future, if that's ever taken away, right, you feed all of your squirrels, right?
Feed all your squirrels?
Yeah. Generationally, now they have no idea how to get food for themselves. Now you can never not feed your squirrels because now they're dependent on you. So was the decision made, like if you said, I can't do the squirrel feeding thing anymore, it's too expensive and I don't have the time for it anyway? Are you the bad person when you stop feeding the squirrels? Or are you the bad person when you created the dependency in the first place?
Yes.
So yeah, you totally justify. You don't have the time. You don't have the money to do it anyway. Right. And, where was I going with that?
Stop feeding the squirrels.
Stop feeding the squirrels.
Because you made that. Yeah. Like if you make them dependent on you and you allow them to be that way, And then you say, oh, you're cut off.
Now they're suffering. The squirrels are suffering.
And who's the bad guy? The one who cut it off or the one who made them dependent?
That's right.
And then here comes another person that says, hey, how about we don't allow them to make us dependent on them? You're crazy.
Well, the Julies are
dangerous.
The Julies are actually your neighbor who's judging you and saying, look at the squirrels suffering. Keep feeding them. Right?
Yes. Yeah, because it's like, but look now, they're so far gone that if you cut them off, they can't survive and you're a terrible person. Instead of, who made them so far gone? How did this happen? What were the things? Like, how do we make it so that no one else becomes so far gone, so that no one else gets in this situation that we cut them off and now they're screwed? How do we remedy?
Well, it's easy. If there are so many voices who think the squirrels should be fed, then they should come over and feed the squirrels. So you like Sesame Street and the government won't fund it now? Well, then all those people who think it should be funded, open their wallets and make sure Sesame Street stays. Yeah. Planned Parenthood. You like abortions? Cool. The government's not going to pay for abortions anymore. You go pay for abortion. So you're so motivated to solve the problem. Open the wallet, go to Planned Parenthood, write the check, and then Planned Parenthood can keep doing whatever they're doing.
Kind of like we were talking about the other day. If you're getting your drive-through coffee and you think those workers deserve more wage, there's a tip jar.
Give it to them.
Right there. Say, here's what you should have made today. Let me pay a little more.
I was reading a study about the forgiveness of student loan debt and how much economic impact it would make if, I think they called it canceled, if we canceled student loan debt.
Yeah.
And, there would be so many jobs would be created, so much money that would be put back into the economy. And it sounded like it was a great pitch for, why wouldn't we do that? We only have to spend $1 trillion to get 400 million, not billion, million more
loans.
Was it the actual money or the jobs? I don't know. It would create a bunch of jobs and put a bunch of money into the economy. Thank you, sir. And so why wouldn't you do it? And you think like you're not really canceling that debt. If you're talking about in a regular economy and you went to the store and bought a big screen TV and you put it on a credit card, how would you cancel the credit card debt? You would either have to have the retailer give you the money back, right? And then you get rid of the television. Mm-hmm. You'd have to have the bank, right? Then move money from another person and cancel your debt by having it paid by a third party, mm-hmm. right? It's really only two ways. It doesn't ever get forgiven. So in this case,
and everybody is still out on that. If they retailer gives you your money back and you throw away the TV, the retailer just lost how they got that TV because it went into the garbage. They lost the money you gave them for it. They don't even have anything back for it. You don't have anything. Like, it still sounds like it doesn't win. If I'm the retailer,
it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if let's just say I'm going to start a company, Joe's Lobotomy Group. Okay. Here's all I'm going to do. This is basically, if you don't like your education that you paid for and you don't want to pay for it anymore, I'm going to forgive that debt, right? I'm going to go to the university. I'm going to say, this person paid for it. They don't like what you taught them. And the university is going to say, but they already have the information. They have the education. We can't reclaim the education. You can't no return policy. I'm saying, no, you give them the money back. I'm going to go into their head and I'm going to target the information that you gave them. And I'm going to lobotomize that part. Just wipe out the stuff that they're no longer willing to pay for. And then they go back to pre-university brain instead of post-university brain, right? Sound like a good plan so far.
A little crazy in sci-fi, but okay.
All right. Magnetically, this is not lobotomize. Let's not destroy the brain. Let's just magnetically remove the information because they weren't happy with it. And the universities have to give them their money back, right? Because that would be a fair exchange, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But again, the university still paid a salary to somebody who sat in a classroom.
But in consumer end, consumer protections are that if you don't like something, you've got a policy that you can return it, and the retailer. Why doesn't information fall under the same thing? If you value your education so little that you don't want to pay for it anymore, then the information obviously wasn't as valuable as what you had to pay for it, right? You're displeased. You're a displeased consumer.
Really, the fight is I wanted it. I was willing to pay for it, but it got too expensive and I still wanted it. So I said, whatever, just give it to me. And now I can't pay it back.
I want Bob to pay for it.
Yes. And now I want you to fix it for me.
Yeah.
Hey, and
again, all the people who think that students shouldn't be burdened by that, go into your legacy funds and your 401ks and maybe the value of your house. And just like the school lunch program, pay off a couple of kids' debts and free them from that burden. That's the neighbor and the squirrel thing. Like if you feel so passionately about it, go do it. But to then pick somebody else out and say, no, that dude needs to do the thing that I want to happen.
We talked about this one day, the whole birthday cake thing. People were saying, oh, well, if you make it so that people can't use their government benefits to buy sweets and junk food, you're taking away a birthday cake. A kid now can't purchase a birthday cake for their birthday, and that's evil. And I'm like, I'll donate you a freaking birthday cake every year, the rest of your life if I have to, so that you don't live off of sugar and sweets and junk that's going to kill you. A lot of good the birthday cake does when you die at age 40 because you have nothing but toxins and sugar in your body. Why do I want you to suffer for this one exception when I could just give you the one exception and save you from yourself with the rest?
You eat sweets one time a year, and I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah. And again, like, why is it the government should do that for you? Why is it that like taxpayers owe you your choice at the grocery store? Like somebody owes you that? Why? Like, again, it's this idea, I think, of who's the actual bad guy here.
The people who wrapped the bad with the good is always going to be the villain. Always.
It is.
There's so much fraud in Medicare by corporations and politicians, i.e. Rick Scott. Trump has given clemency to many of them, but sure, let's throw the deserving off. The point was the non-deserving off of Medicare is who's being thrown off.
Yeah.
Not the deserving people can stay.
Everybody keeps saying all these people who need it are going to be hurt. Show me that. If that is truly the case, yeah, that sucks, and we need to address that. Yeah. I have not seen that to be the case from what I've read. We'll have to see how it plays out. We could be wrong. Maybe they're a bunch of a-holes, and they're going to hurt a bunch of innocent people. I don't know. But from what I have seen so far, that's not the case. It's the undeserving being thrown out. The deserving will be fine. And until do we have an example that that's not the case? And maybe Julie, maybe you've seen it. If so, by all means, like share some info. Where are we seeing deserving people of this are losing their benefits?
Well, we were on our quick climb to socialism, and these are all of the predicates to that socialism. So let's change the nouns and verbs on it. So let's just say, the handicap placards entitles you to park in a handicap spot.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you have to have certain requirements in order to use the placard. Now, what if you found out that the system was being abused and a lot of people who could walk into the store, they either didn't have an ailment that prohibited them from walking to the store, but they had the placard in some situations. You found out that some people were not using it the way that it should.
They just wanted a close parking spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So now we would need to clean up the system. How would you do it as the administrator of the program? You're going to your first slice off is you're going to increase the fines and make it so that if you are caught using a spot, then there's a penalty for abusing that system. Do you ever watch somebody get out of a car and walk in and you're like, why do they have a placard?
Well, and I really try not to judge when I see that, because I've known people in person that I knew someone, she had a heart condition, looked totally fine, looked young, looked able-bodied, really could not park far or would like get halfway there. So I try not to judge based on how they look. But I years ago, when I was very big and pregnant, I was going to Babies R Us, which I don't think exists anymore. They had expectant mother parking. And I watched a man pull in and park there to go into another store. And I'm just like, my fat ass is about to kill you right now because I had to hoop it from back there 8 months pregnant. So you, who obviously are not pregnant, could take this spot and go into a different store. Yeah, it makes you mad. So what do you do?
So, and that's the thing. Like, then you'd expect the scalpel, right, to look into it, to reevaluate where the people who are taking advantage of the system outside of the spirit of the system. Because why do we have those? Because we want people that are in either a permanent or a temporary condition to have a pass, so they could be safer to go into a freaking store. Yeah. And anybody who's not that needs to lose the privilege. So how would you do it? You would look through and make, if there's an able-bodied person that has grandma's tag, you need the penalty to be really high that really stops that from happening. At the same time, you need to scrape them from the system. What happens if Bill is using grandma's placard and she loses the placard because he was abusing the system? Then is your headline, Granny deprived of the placard, right?
Yeah.
Or is it Bill messed this up for Granny, and now she doesn't have what she is entitled to?
Who's the bad guy?
Who's the bad guy?
You see this with like service dogs. It used to be a service dog wasn't all that common. I feel like there is extensive training. There is documentation. There's a whole background to someone getting a service dog and why that dog is allowed in public places. And then what did we see? The abuse of that. People that just didn't want to leave their dog at home. They just want to take their dog everywhere with them. And now they label it a service dog, even though there's no actual training. There's no paperwork behind it. There's no disability involved. And so what happens? People are like, no animals here, period. But I have a service. I don't care. There's no animals here, period. And now it's like, who's the bad guy? The person who cut you off and said no animals, period? Or all the a-holes that abused it and made it so corrupt that now you lost the ability to use your benefit?
Libertarian in me says that if you're not really good at running systems without having massive abuse on them, then you shouldn't be running systems, or make them small and almost no advantage. You got to make the system super hard so that the people who take advantage of them don't want to do it, because it's such, like the state of Ohio, right?
Yeah.
They made it hard to become a vendor to the state of Ohio. And so there's nobody going to go through that shit in order to abuse the system.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
Have you ever tried to file for unemployment? Oh my God. Like twice in my life did I have an actual layoff and they said, here's your info, file for unemployment until you find another job. That system is so difficult to maneuver because they're trying to fight fraud and corruption that it's to the point where I was like, don't. I will find another job before I ever see a check from the state for unemployment, because they make it so difficult. Why? Because they know people are going to abuse it.
Right. So whether we're talking about how easy is it to get on Medicaid? If you fill out a form and say, I hurt my back, and they sign it, and then you're on Medicaid, well, that's far too easy. There's a lot of people who just want free money that are going to do that because it's so simple.
Yeah.
So I think the suffering should be on the complication and the slowness of the system. That might be a feature, not a bug, of things being harder than they need to be to keep the grifters out of the system.
Yeah.
And I think through the whole, massive illegal immigrant strategy that the Democrats had, it positioned a ton of people that shouldn't be on there that are now on there. So when you make it super easy to get on, you're going to have super, way more than average amount of people that are working the system over. And that's where you find yourself.
And then when you try to stifle the corruption, you're the bad guy.
Exactly. Because the granny who doesn't have her thing, you're going to feel bad. And now she's suffering. But then you ask yourself, why is she suffering? It's because the tag was too easy to get. It was too easy to abuse. And now we don't know who should be on it. And it's too hard to police.
Yeah. So again, I'm still waiting for someone to show me an example of an innocent person is losing their much deserved benefit, and they will suffer at the hands of.
Because it's assured that if you do this to Medicaid, that there will be an innocent that gets harmed from it, and that will be the headline.
Oh, for sure.
The granny will.
Yes. They will find one and say, look what they're doing. These monsters, these tyrants, they're just greedy and gaining power and they're keeping down the little guy. And it's like, what? What? Because it's all a game. It's all we're getting played from both sides. They just want to push the way things look to make it look. And this all came to a head, like I said, because I am a fan of RFK Jr. This is when I really saw it. When I went, how can we take a concept, not so much the person, the concept that makes so much sense, and we demonize it and we fight about it? That, like, if that doesn't show you how we are so easily pitted against each other, I don't know what does. Because there's literally nothing bad about it. And I'm not talking about different policies or how he goes about things or him in general. I'm talking about the idea of health and getting healthier and how that can fix things. The fact that that can be an argument shows how screwed we are.
All right, so let me give you this little story. So I'm a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe. It's one of the first sort of pieces of literature. I had a book of all of the Poe works, and I read this thing. I was probably 9-10 years old, so it was one of my first. Dude's a genius. It's a dark genius, but he's a genius, right? And so I saw that there's going to be a theatrical performance of Poe works. Okay,
locally,
I think it is.
I just saw something on Facebook.
Yeah, I think it's local. And so all I wanted to know is, because I'm a fan of Poe, whether or not this is a pure Poe production where it's just the stories the way that were
Pure
intended,
Poe production, or
is this an adaptation where this is a woke version from theater kids who thought Poe needed to be a little bit more woke? So I did. So I said, can someone share a review of this performance and make sure that I'm not walking into some woke weird version, because I'm going to be thoroughly disappointed.
The Disney version of Edgar
Exactly.
Allan Poe.
And so, do you think I was gang tackled, or do you think people just shared reviews with me?
I didn't even need the second one. Yes, you were gang
tackled. But it was funny because I was very, you got to be careful when you walk into something that could be bastardized in a certain way, and you're about to spend money on it. You want to make sure that you're not going to get hoodwinked, and now you get to go through 2 hours
like you go to a movie and you didn't know it was a musical.
Yes, yes.
You're like, I didn't know this was singing the whole time.
So I'm just asking. I don't prefer the woke version adaptations, and is it one of these? That's really all I was asking.
Yeah.
And it was what are you afraid of a little diversity added to your theater?
Racist, what bigot?
Do you have sensitivities to reading and listening to things that maybe you don't like? And I was like, no, I'm about to pay for something, and I want to make sure what I'm going to see is the thing that I want.
Yeah.
That's the entirety
like if I'm
of it.
Gonna buy tickets to go see Rapunzel, and Rapunzel has a pixie haircut, I'm gonna be a little upset.
100%.
The whole show is about her long hair.
But it shouldn't. It's a reasonable request. Do you think it's if you're going to take things and adapt them so that they're in this genre of wokeness? Some people like that, and they should be able to go to see that. And some people do detest that.
And the thing is, it's such a hot button now too, is like they will jump all over you because they think they know what you're implying here. Whereas if you take Snow White and the Huntsman with Kristen Stewart, that is an adaptation of the story of Snow White that is completely different from Disney's Snow White. And if you were to say, okay, is this like the original story, or is this like maybe a spin-off? Is this another tale? Is this another version? Is this another adaptation? Then maybe somebody might say, oh yeah, it's the Kristen Stewart version, which is a different story. But no, people on the internet will hear, hey, is this legit Edgar Allan Poe, or is this? And they're like, I already know where you're going with this. You're a bigot, racist Nazi.
It's exactly
That's clearly what you meant by that. And it's like, or I meant, what am I expect? Is this, or is it this?
I'm about to shop a product, and I need to know the ingredients of this product. That's all I'm looking for. Give me the nutritional breakdown of what I'm about to see. And, in theater, it's pretty probable that they're going to take some liberties with the story to make it into something that is that. And so if the high probability, I just want to know before I buy it.
Yeah. I mean, like I love Moulin Rouge. And my first experience with Moulin Rouge was the movie with Nicole Kidman. And she looks a certain way. Satine to me is this redheaded, fair, pale-skinned woman. I went and saw Moulin Rouge on stage in Pittsburgh. She was a brunette. She was tan. And I was like, oh, I still like the show, but I really liked Satine. That's Satine to me. Like, you don't look anything like Satine to me. And is it, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person? No, but I prefer this look over this look. That's the character. And if you change it, I'm going to feel some kind of way, regardless of your political beliefs or your background or your
But
whatever.
if you knew that going in, you could have spared yourself from spending the money and picked a different product if that's what you wanted to consume.
That's not what she
you have
looks
preferences. Like. It's where you feel good about spending your money that they gave you a good product on the other. But they want to trick you into going to see it first and then be exposed to something, right? And just tolerate it. Maybe they can convince you that the diversity was exactly what you wanted. Going to the zoo and them telling you just how bad of a person you are because you cut down the rainforest, right?
Yeah.
So, did you get the reviews from Poe? Can you share? I was thinking of going too. I did not. Nobody legit. I got a couple of, its performance is great, but always followed up by, don't worry about the diversity and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So nobody actually said if this was the traditional Poe stories
or if it's a musical.
Zero people answered.
Is it a musical?
Zero people answered.
Julie says, I have a personal attachment to the Medicaid program. He has an interview in a week for a determination for his eligibility. The fear is some bureaucrat will decide he is not. It will devastate our family. So let me know in a week what happens.
Yeah. And we'll determine if somebody who's legitimately should be on there got kicked off, then I want to hear about it because we'll talk about it just like any other.
Because that's a lot of what I'm seeing too. When I hear like, oh my gosh, this plan, this program, this cut, this whatever is going to be devastating. It's going to be awful. When I go to read about it, it's all these could be, might be, potentially may cause in certain, and it's like, wait a minute. So we don't even know if it is or not. It's just all the, well, anything could happen. Anything might happen. Anything could be potentially the cause of something. Tell me when it does, and then I'll be on your side.
After the fact. But, and I don't mind having a healthy dose of cynicism. I'm a cynic across the board. Mm-hmm. Levy some of that cynicism at the proper people instead of hypotheticals that have no attachment. How many people, COVID, how many people were killed because they took the vaccine? More than 3 of the wars, 600,000 people dead because they took a vaccine. So I want you to be critical about things that could happen. Like, what if we give everybody this thing and a bunch of people die needlessly for it? But all of a sudden you don't want the hypothetical, the probabilities there, but you want to mask those ones. Yeah. So it's political. That's what I hate about this.
The next time you want to picket something or protest something, make your signs point to the people or all of you. You are all idiots. You are all the problem. Like when we ran out of toilet paper during COVID, it's because we were all idiots with the 100%. Toilet paper. So don't picket the government and that. And I'm using toilet paper, but you can insert anything. Don't picket some system or I want to go out on the street and point to every member of the general public and be like, this is all your fault and it's your fault and it's your fault. When there was a gas shortage because somebody got scared something was happening and everybody went to the gas station, I wanted to walk through the whole gas station and be like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. This is your fault. This is your fault. Hey, back there, when you can't get gas, it's because of them, and them. Like, not some, and yes, I'm not saying that we're not controlled by certain things. We are, but where's the true bad guy? Picket them.
Well, I will tell you this. I am not yet through my stock of toilet paper yet. I bought so much.
You're the bad guy.
A pallet of toilet paper.
No, you did not.
I'm being funny.
Oh my God. I was like, Jesus, Joe.
No, I did not go out and
you're like, I bought it on the black market
out of someone's trunk at Hills. Do you remember that stuff used to happen during Christmas time?
Knockoff stuff?
No, there was a black market industry where people would steal stuff and they would go around Christmas. It was Cabbage Patch dolls at the time. And they were hard to come by, and every family was coming out there disappointed because they couldn't do a Cabbage Patch. And there were cars in the parking lot, trunks open, that had Cabbage Patch dolls. And you'd come out and you would pay almost double what it was in the store. And you'd buy a Cabbage Patch because they were in scarcity.
And I would love to know how many parents did that, got the doll, and it was shoved aside 2 days later.
Yes. Yes.
I have to have this thing. And then kids are like that. And man, it's getting on my nerves because I have been a parent that stresses and stresses and stresses over this gotta have Christmas item, this gotta have birthday gift, this gotta have, it means so much to me. And oh my heart, if I can't give it to him, and I'll do everything I can to get it to him. And when I watch it get thrown in a toy box days later and forgotten about, I'm like, I've been bamboozled yet again.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever overpaid for a popular item, be it Christmas or whatever, and still kind of feel the trauma from the moment?
Probably not overpaid. I think luckily anything we spend a lot of money on that truly is what you are going to spend, and it is still getting used. Luckily, knock on wood. But I mean, there have been just a lot of little things that I could have saved money on because I literally just threw it away.
I could think one of them. This was the first Apple Watch, the Apple Watch 1. It was coming out. I had a scheduled review to do on it. I was going to open the box, tell how it was, experience
like
it,
an unboxing.
It's exactly
video.
Right. Doing a review of this. Okay. So I ordered it, pre-ordered it, ready to go. I knew it was going to arrive a couple days or maybe a week before it was supposed to get there. And I got an email that said, your order's been delayed. We have sold through our inventory. We're going to be restocked, whatever, which would be after the date where I promised the review to the people who I was doing it for. So what I did was, I know some people got theirs already. Let me go out to eBay and find out if there's somebody selling an Apple Watch so that I can review it still. And I think they were selling for $400 at the time. So I get on eBay and I was like, $1,000, $1,200, $1,500
for a $400 item.
For a $400 item.
Jeez.
And I was like, shit. Like, I'm gonna pay $1,000 for this thing that if I just wait a week, it's only gonna be $400. And I hit that bid and I bought that $1,000 stupid Apple Watch.
My Lord.
I saved that Apple Watch because of what it did to me inside. I want to make sure that I keep it because I only used it for a year before the next one came out. So that Apple Watch causes tons of mental anxiety every time I see it. I should just throw it away so I don't have to feel that anymore.
And isn't that risky too? Like, what if you didn't get it in time? What if the person was a scammer? What if...
But I did get it in time and I did the review and I chalked it up as just one of those things that happen.
Was the review beneficial?
It was. It did really well.
Was it like $1,200 worth of a review?
Probably not $1,200 worth,
God.
but I said I would do it and I came through even if it cost me $700 more than it should have.
My husband and I were just recently talking about the idea of maybe potentially in the future taking our kids on a vacation. And I'm one of those parents, I'm sorry. I'm not spending thousands of dollars to go to like Disney World when the kid is 2 and won't remember. Now, if the parents themselves love Disney and it's really for you, then go enjoy it. I don't really want to go to Disney World. I'm doing it for the kids, so I'm not going to do it unless they enjoy it and it's worth the money. Well, so we never did. Well, now that they're older, there's been some interest in like Universal Studios. My daughter's really into Harry Potter, wants to go see the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and she's like all about it. My husband's like, what do you think about starting to save up for the next couple of years and we take the kids to Universal Studios? And I'm like, it could be fun, but my son has shown little to no interest in going. And I am so afraid that it will be time and stress and money for a reaction when we get there. Mm-hmm. And I'm so afraid as I'm like, if we spend that much money and that much effort and the stress of being there and the coordination and everything that goes into a family vacation and the reaction is not what we expected, I'm going to be so mad. And now it's like, I don't even want to do it. I don't know what to do. I was like, is there something that we know all 4 of us would love? I don't know. What would you do? Like, do you like big vacations like that?
No, or? I like small ones because go to the beach. By the second day, I'm done. I got the thing that I wanted out of it. I don't need to stretch it out. I'm kind of bored and want to get back to what I do well. So yeah, mine little 2-3 days are perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if we do it and we go and we get there and I hear one kid complain about anything, I might lose my mind. I might be like, do you have any idea what it took to get you here? So that you could be like, let's make them pay for it.
Then they'll value it.
Yeah.
Then they'll be
How
discriminating.
much Christmas birthday money, neighbors pet watching money can you save up for Universal Studios? And then maybe you don't complain.
That's right. All right, I picked the last topic, so you get to. What else is on your brain?
Oh gosh,
we were kind of the buffet style here today.
Buffet style. Let's see. We talked about realtors.
Did you see and this is do you have something?
No, well, maybe it's what you were saying.
Go.
Were you about to talk about Final Destination?
No.
Oh, because that would have been really funny if that popped into both of our heads.
Go ahead, Final Destination.
Okay, this is a quick story.
Yeah.
Something I saw this morning, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta tell somebody. And I called a family member to tell them, but I want to tell it here too. Because I think you posted the Final Destination thing about a movie theater
the ceiling
collapsed
during
a Final Destination showing. I was leaving my house this morning and I'm still in my driveway and I see coming down my road is a big tractor. One of those like they cut grass and fields and stuff. They have a big kind of lawnmower attached to them and the tractor drives and they cut this field. Well, obviously it was just driving down the road. It wasn't cutting grass. So the little lawnmower thing was pulled up, but the blades were still spinning as it's driving down with the blades towards the outside. And I'm just like, I literally out loud, I said, oh my God. And I'm just watching it get like close to my neighbor's mailbox. And I'm just like, holy shit, your blades are spinning. And it's like, it's like a lawnmower the size of a tractor with blades going, and it's going towards the intersection that is closed and under construction with a bunch of construction guys around. And I'm like, oh my God. So by the time I go to pull out of my driveway, another truck is between us and I pull out. So I can't see the tractor. I just see the truck. And by the time we get to this intersection with all the construction workers and he turns and I see it, the blades are stopped. So now I'm like, did a construction dude say, dude, turn the blades off? Or was it slowing down when I saw it and it had stopped by the time it got there? Either way, I was like, oh, that can't be good.
That's a death moment right there.
Yes. Somebody just walk in, a cyclist, a walker, a person in their driveway, a construction worker, just standing there. And somebody had a big tractor-sized lawnmower still going. Freaked me out. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to talk about Kash Patel's interview yesterday. I think it was on Fox News.
I did not see that.
All right. And Carter says it's called a brush hog, by the way.
Brush hog.
Yes.
Or bush hog.
Oh, yeah. Bush hog.
Bush hog. Yeah. Turn the blades off of your bush hog.
Okay.
I
And
feel
Jerry
like you can
says,
apply that to anything.
how about the moving of Poland Library and how much usage do brick and mortar buildings get? We'll come back to Kash Patel. But if you've ever been to the Youngstown library full of books, yes. But nobody is going to the library to read books. They just aren't. It's just not a function that has survived the internet age very much. I remember going to libraries so you get books and write a book report because you didn't have a library like they did. But right now you don't need, the needs of the library have totally changed. But if you go to Youngstown, they have outfitted this with more than 50% of the infrastructure of the library is stuff other than books. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Did I just
you
tap
hit something? Oh, okay.
Anyway, so the libraries have to reinvent themselves if they want relevance in regular modern society. They cost a lot of money. And the occupancy, the people going there, is really low. Now, I love the library. I sit on the board of the local library. And so I do think that there is a place for it. But I don't think most libraries have adapted to that scenario like the Youngstown Library has. Maybe they allow DVD rentals and access to a computer and maybe put on some courses. But I don't necessarily see people putting go to the library very often on their calendar, right? Except for a couple times a year. It's not a town square type of place as it once was. So Poland deciding to move that place was amazing. Did you ever been in the Poland Library? It was a really nice looking place. So I think hopefully if they get to reimagine where the library goes to, that they will that wherever they move to will be a better version of what the library was. It's not just its architectural beauty and whatever, but it will actually be stuff that I don't think that library really lent itself to doing the extra stuff that the Youngstown Library, because it's got a ton more space. So I will reserve judgment until I see what they're planning on doing. If they just take the profile of the library and move it to a different place, I think that's a bad move.
When I saw, we took our kids there maybe a month or two ago, to walk around and check it out. And they do have like a nice event space. I think there was like a bridal or a baby shower happening there. And I'm like, oh, what a beautiful location for a baby shower. There's a little cafe there. Yeah, I think you have to have things like that in addition to books for an appeal, for more usage. It is a very beautiful space, but I honestly don't know. I don't know how often that room is rented. I don't know the kind of business the cafe does.
If you take the total cost of a library and you divide it by how many people use its services, I bet you it's a very expensive thing. Yeah. And so you want to get the best value for the taxpayer so that, if you had to do tuition to come there, that it wouldn't be like $1,000 a person kind of thing.
And aren't they moving it because it's structurally not?
Yeah, there's a structural problem.
Yeah.
But those buildings are all ancient on that side of town. It's a beautiful building. So Jerry says, want to talk about excessive cash. Look at their balance sheets, the taxes paid in perpetuity, relevance, taxable savings. Yeah, if they do better where there isn't so much cost, then Jared, to be honest, I don't know. I saw that it's happening. I didn't really dig into it. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow with the Emelobros. They seem to be connected to the the math on all things Poland. So we'll find out more tomorrow.
To be continued.
Back to Kash Patel. So yesterday during an interview, he was asked about the Epstein list and whether or not this thing is still happening. And first time they said it, yay, let's do it. Second time they said it, are they really going to do it? But the third time that I'm waiting for something to happen, I'm like, come on, dude. You're only responding because it was asked. You're not communicating with the people that what's the holdup, what's taking so long. And I thought it was a 60% chance before, then a 40% chance the next time. I think it's like a 10% chance now that anything actually comes. So his response was, there's a lot of documentation and it's taking a really long time. And we want to make sure that we're thorough and we present everything. I'm still have an obligation to the public to release this list. Your thoughts? Do you think it'll come out?
No. If he's saying now, there's a lot of documentation and I've got all this preparation to do and we're working on it and it's going to take a long time, then why all the drama several weeks or months ago when it was all this leading up, when Pam Bondi's like, we're releasing these files, we're releasing this info, everybody stay tuned, we're releasing it on this date. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, for nothing. Why did they do that then? If they're like, well, it's going to be a lengthy process, there's a lot to go. But you just said you had something for us. And only until we saw that was BS are you now saying, oh, well, but it's going to take time. We got to comb through all this data. We got to protect the victims. We got to make sure that we have everything but you said you were ready and now you're not ready. So did it become a lengthier process? Or I don't know. There's just so many unanswered questions to it that it just sounds like bull.
So if I were in that interviewer's chair and I'm asking, I have Kash in front of me, this would be my question, because the reason we want to see it is because there was a sex trafficking ring where 2 people went to prison and none of the people that broke the law on the patronage side have ever had any justice applied to them. So I'm going to say, I don't care about the list and the releasing. The people who were patrons of this sex ring, are they going to prison? Right? We need to know who they are and they need to be prosecuted. What you're working on, is it that? Are you working on putting the people who broke the law and preyed on young children going to prison? Yes, no. What you release, I don't care what you release. Is that part of it, the justice of that, is that the part you're working on? Yes, no. That's what I want to know.
You think they would answer? Or would they just say, we
whatever,
have to protect
whatever he said? If the first one was theater and it was a response to public pressure to provide something to show that we're working on it, if his response we're kind of step it back and say, if he's like, yeah, we're going after them, we're going to get them, that tells me everything you're working on from a legal standpoint. And or if he said something like, we're going to go through and the stuff that we can release, we'll make sure that we can be as transparent as possible. I'm like, you're protecting shit. Nobody's ever going to know who was on that list.
I'm kind of surprised we've not seen more of the victims or people who claim to be the victims come forward. Like, I'm really surprised.
Dude, they are dying, getting hit by buses. I would not come out after if the one thing that happened to you, you die.
Is it that it's that threatening? Yeah. Like, I can't believe we've not seen like a shadowed faced, jumbled voice say, I was one of these people and I want to come and say.
But the shadowed voice and the person's interviewing, how do you know they're not connected to the ring and you're going to die? I would never in a million years trust that anybody can keep me safe because I don't know who's involved. I think everybody was involved.
Oh, God.
So I don't trust that it's going to come out. Or if it comes out, it's just going to be another theatrical presentation that doesn't really answer the one question I want to know. Who were the lawbreakers that preyed on children? And are you going to put them into prison?
Or it's going to come out many, many, many years later where...
After it doesn't matter. All those people retired or dead.
They got away with it.
Oh, here it is. Carter said, he also said Epstein committed suicide, but Brett didn't follow up by asking, how do you know for sure? How do you know for sure? And that was kind of surprising. If he would have said, the documentation says that he committed suicide, and even though that the circumstances are very suspicious, we're a law enforcement agency, and we're going to keep investigating until we know what really happens. That would have satisfied me. What we know, what we want to know, not we're absolutely sure it was suicide.
Has he said we're absolutely sure it's suicide?
He did.
Is that the stance he's taking?
The stance is it was a suicide. There's nothing more to look into. Stop looking, kind of a thing. We're not a government that kills off people who are inconvenient to putting a bunch of lawmakers and important people in prison. That was a long version of it. But that's what I think he was the truth.
RFK Jr. says, question everyone in a position of authority.
Mm-hmm.
Trust no one.
It's true. All right. What else do you want to talk about, or we can wrap this up?
What did I just see recently? Speaking of RFK. Oh, there's all this controversy that is it the FDA or somebody is removing the COVID vaccine
from the schedule
of required vaccines.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
A little late, but thank you.
I saw on Facebook a local pediatrician said, my office is a no freak out zone. Come with your questions if you'd like, after sharing the article about it is now not part of blah, 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 which says to me, all these people are like, oh my gosh, does that mean it's not safe? Or are they not safe for not making it required and all this stuff? Like, I haven't seen yet the people freaking out about it or what they're saying, but is it it's just not like required? Was it required?
Well, the CDC publishes the vaccine schedule that then gets picked up by people who are implementing that schedule. So if you're going into kindergarten, going into school, those are the requirements as attached to state federal funding. They use CDC guidelines. So when they say that it's not a requirement, that means the people that have to impose it are going to just eliminate or stop. You can still go get it if you want to. It was never a requirement for anyone except for the people who say the CDC guidelines are the gold standard and you have to do those things or you're not permitted into my job, institution, or whatever. So, but it was common theory that COVID's threat to healthy people was way less than people who had comorbidities, old, whatever. So there's a group of people who the risk of dying from it were really low anyway. And when you introduce something into healthy people, the consequence is if those people have a reaction where they wouldn't have died anyway, but died because you got the vaccine, those are the ones that are the saddest moments, because they shouldn't have been on the vaccine schedule anyway. If you had a high risk of dying anyway, then you're willing to take the risk of the medicine in order to not die. And so this just kind of illustrates what should have been the practice in the very beginning. And once we knew, early on when we didn't know, we were throwing things, we were trying to go, to a level of safety. But once they started figuring out like, healthy people that are in their 20s, like a 0.001 risk, right? Mm-hmm. Let's introduce a vaccine that has a 0.1 risk. That seems like a really dumb mathematical decision, unless you just want uniformity across everybody. And we're going to sell a lot of vaccines. That's the reason that you would do that.
Because then you hear these people say, well, the healthy person doesn't get the vaccine to protect themselves. They get the vaccine to protect the people who are at risk.
Total BS.
What do you say? I've heard that recently. I heard a medical professional say that recently.
That was total BS, because it didn't do those things. And they knew that it didn't do those things, but it was about, we're in a pandemic and conformity is more important than research and data.
Yeah, you got to save grandma by getting your vaccine.
Think about it. Like, if you don't follow this stuff, you don't look at the math behind it, and you just follow whatever the government tells you, the government has to trust that you're about to make a good decision. And what if you make a bad decision? Okay. So then if they were right about it, you would then get the disease and spread it to other people. So it was basically formulated for the dumbest amongst us who aren't good at critical thinking or making decisions. We need everybody. If you get caught on that net, you were smart enough to make your own decisions, right? And using you and putting you in harm's way for the sake of the dumb people.
Yeah, that's another thing RFK pushes a lot is you should make your own decision. You should be presented with all the information and make your own decision. Right. I recently saw Jillian Michaels in an interview, and they got on the subject of vaccines and all that, and misinformation and what's true and who you should trust. And she's like, we just want the info. For example, children always get the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. And some people were wanting to question that. And everybody says, oh my gosh, it's science. It's been tested. Here's the proof. We've tested it. Measles, mumps, rubella, blah, blah, blah. Kids get it. Why are you pushing back on this? And she says, you're right. They have tested all three separately, not together,
right? Not
at the same time. So do that. What's it hurt then? Just where's the documentation of they're safe to have at the same time? Show us that. And I went, I never thought of that. You just hear, oh, well, they have been tested. It has been tested. You're making people scared for no reason. It's been tested. It's fine. And then you hear individually they have been, not at the same time. And I was like, oh my God, we're
trusting those people.
Yeah, we do need to just look at things and ask questions. And
like we said in the earlier part of the show, if researchers are going after the grant money, their job isn't to find things, do complicated research that puts those three in the same testing. It means I know what I had to do to go get this grant money. I checked all the boxes and I got the grant money. That's it. But our universities should be smarter than this. You should have critical thinkers who are actually trying to solve the problem of, hey, if we dose people up with 70 vaccines within the first 10 years of their life, any overlap there that can cause more damage than when the diseases we're trying to protect them against?
Because we do see, if you take your kids when they're young for their shots and their different vaccines, you do see that there are some you have to wait. We're going to do this now, and then come back later and do this, and then come back later and do this, because you can't do them all at once. So then why would we not think that could possibly be the case with other things?
Are you a vaccine skeptic? If someone lobbed that at you, would you be insulted that you're a skeptic?
I would not say I'm a vaccine skeptic. No.
How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as curious, questioning.
A vaccine curious?
Yeah. Did I do all the shots and all the vaccines the doctor told me to do? Yes. It wasn't until recently that I went, oh, well, I never even really thought about having the power to make my own decision. like
Right.
young mother, inexperienced. I don't know. Medical professionals who I trust are telling me do A, B, and C, and anything, vaccines, cold medicine, anything. You sort of want to trust that people know more than you when you're getting good advice. And then as you become more experienced and you start to see how certain things work and you start to get more information, you're like, I may be listening to the wrong people. And I'm not saying that I'm listening to somebody who's malicious. Maybe they just are uninformed too, or maybe they thought one thing, but new research has shown another thing. So it leads me to think, I don't know if I do want to do that. Like I took the COVID vaccine. I did not give it to my kids, and I don't regret that. Because of things that came out later. To me, it's just like I want, like RFK says, I want the info. I want you to tell me everything. If I go to a medical professional and I say, hey, I'm sick, what would you recommend? Okay, but are there any side effects to that? Is there any this? Like, I want to be able to ask questions, to get answers, to get information. I want the ups and the downs of both sides. And then I will take your medical opinion and to consideration. I will take my gut instinct into consideration. I want all the info rather than just
all right. So let's
blindly.
reframe it so that we can adequately be described. And
Okay.
I don't think vaccine skeptic describes either of us,
Mm-hmm.
because if a vaccine is a tool,
Yeah.
right? This is a hammer. Are you skeptical of the hammer? Are you skeptical of the advisement of what to do with the hammer? So if you see some guy fixing a window by hitting it with a hammer, right? And you're like, we do not use hammers to fix windows, right?
Yeah.
Are you skeptical of the hammer? Are you skeptical of how you were advised to use the hammer from a person that obviously doesn't know how to use a hammer?
Yes.
You're an information skeptic or advisement skeptic, not a tool skeptic.
Yes.
Properly.
Yeah. Like everybody, I think when they even hear that I like RFK, that I must be some like anti-vaxxer, hippie, whatever. You don't believe in medicine. Not me at all. I will go to the doctor any day of the week. I will seek medical care if it is necessary. I'm not anti anything. I want to be given the information. I don't want to blindly trust anybody, whether they're a doctor or not. I don't want to blindly trust something I heard without knowing the pros and cons or side effects. If a doctor tells me, hey, take this, I'll be like, oh, well, what's it going to do? I don't know. It should help. Should help. Or what? Like, I've had side effects to things before. I've had medical procedures that something bad came of it. Luckily, nothing horrible, but it's like, hey, I now have experience under my belt that not everything a doctor tells me to do is going to work out. So I'm skeptic with the usage of the tools. Yes. I want more. I want as much information as possible before I do anything to my body.
So my heated salt rock has never hurt me. I have more faith in the salt rock to solve a lot of medical abnormalities because no side effects, no symptoms. Salt rock's good.
Yeah.
Julie says the combo MMR vaccine has been tested since 1963.
And
I think
she may have been talking about before 1963. I don't know, but the point was, where's the documentation of the testing? And to say the combo vaccine has been tested since 1963, what's the testing? Because you hear things like she's talked about, was it hepatitis vaccine or something she had pointed out specifically, says, yeah, it's been tested. It's been tested. Here's the testing. And then you find out it's like 5 people they followed for 3 days and they were fine. Approved.
Yeah, and that's the part, is not trusting the tests, right? It's trusting what we do with the tests. How thorough was the testing? If you say, I gave you a parachute and it's been thoroughly tested, you assume that it means that my safety was everything, right?
Yeah.
But if I don't, and so you assume that when it could be trusted, that they'll share the information with you if you even asked. What happened with COVID means that when they say it's safe, they don't really mean that you were kept in mind for its safety. It might be safety under certain conditions or safety to the system. So what's safe mean? If we don't know the level the standard of what deems something safe. Like if less than 6,000 people die from it, is that considered safe? Or is it 0 people died from it? Is that considered safe?
Yeah.
So what is it?
Any woman that has ever gone through a pregnancy knows there's quite a bit of things you can put in your body when you're not pregnant that you cannot have when you are pregnant.
Right.
So just like they said, hey, certain vaccines, certain shots, certain medications are not safe for kids under age 6, pregnant women, elderly, whatever. So what's the testing? To say, oh yeah, go ahead and take this ibuprofen. It's been tested on people take it every day. You're fine. But a pregnant woman or somebody with a medical condition, steer clear of ibuprofen or whatever it is. So what's the testing? Show me. Who was it tested on? Where's the group? Like, that's what people are fighting for, is I want the information. Don't blindly tell me, yeah, there's been studies on this. Well, who is studied? Like what was studied? What was the situation in which it was studied? Yeah. So to say something was tested is not good enough.
Yeah. And my goal is to take as few foreign things into my body as I possibly can. So my goal is to only do the things that I absolutely have to. And I will do them the least amount that I possibly can. So if I don't like aspirin, I'm not taking aspirin. I'm going to try to find other things to do other than take the thing that I don't want to put into my body that is pharmaceutical in nature, right?
Yeah.
And so if you tell me the vaccine schedule, divvy it up and say, is this like a contingency take, or do I have to take? Is there bad things going to happen? I'm not going to take 80 of them for sure. 100%. I will go to huge ends to not have to do that thing.
Have you ever been given a prescription from a doctor and had a reaction to it?
I don't really take prescriptions.
Years ago, I was given something and I had an allergic reaction to it. And it wasn't like anaphylaxis or anything. Like it was a rash or whatever. And the moment I went back to the doctor and said, look at me like I'm head to toe rash, my lips are swelling. What is this? Oh, you're having a reaction to this medication. That's pretty common. Could you have told me that when you gave it? You made no mention of that when you gave me this prescription. You made no mention of, by the way, keep your eyes peeled in case you break out in head to toe in a rash and your lips start swelling. It's going to be this, discontinue. It took me coming back to you before you said that's very common, but you didn't tell me this. Like, this is what we wanted. I just want to know these things. I may have still taken it, for what it was for. I probably needed it for that more so than I needed to avoid a rash. But like, why can't we just know everything? Why can't we be given information?
They should have medical professionals that, dump information into you as you're just not a consumer that's going through, but somebody who's paying for an expertise. Like, you'd think that would happen.
Yeah.
And the mistrust in the system is they need to take account for that and do a much better job with medical.
Yep. Krista says, without understanding statistical significance and how to read clinical trial results, and without being an expert on the complexities of immunology, etc., how are you going to be 100% sure of the info you're given? You can pull package inserts on the internet and view the trials. So that was one of the things that RFK was saying when he's like, I think people should just be given the information. Somebody said, but we are not all scientists. We are not doctors. Who are we to be able to understand the medical jargon to know what it is we're reading? And to me, he says we need to become better critical thinkers, number one. But number two, if you want to trust a doctor, by all means, I want to be able to say, here's some info I found. Can you explain this to me? Can you give me the pros and cons? Not just blindly, you have this, take this. Like, the pushback is always, but I don't understand how to read it, so you should just tell us what to do.
My family doctor, and this is what you should do in all elements of your life, is you find someone who's specialized in something and interview the shit out of them to find out if they're just a captured, making money in this industry, or they're a knowledgeable professional. And so I'll do my own research. And so like me and my doctor were pretty much on the same page. He's going to be able to fill in information that I don't have. And he has respect that I know almost as much as he does, except for the part I need from him. So when I talk to him, I say something like, I don't want to take the vaccine. Are there any reasons that I should take the vaccine? And then he looks at my blood work and he looks at where I'm at and my level of health. And then he tells me not the thing that he tells everybody else. He caters to me and tells me what I need to know. He fills in all of the missing data. So he reads the studies and he can understand them, but he gives me informed, an informed angle. So then I can make the decision. It's ultimately my decision. If he said, do this, I'm not going to just do it because he said so. We don't have conversations like that.
Do you ever have a doctor look at you though, and the moment you start saying, but I was looking into this and I saw this and I saw that, and they're like, stay off the internet.
They're fired in a heartbeat.
Yes!
They're fired. 100%.
My two biggest red flags is one, I've told you why I'm here in a span of 30 seconds and you're already giving me a treatment. You're not really listening. You're pushing something on me is one red flag. And two, before even hearing all the information I have found, you've already written me off as paranoid, hypochondriac. I Googled my symptoms and I ran with it.
Pick a new doctor.
Yeah. And now I have to feel like I have to lead with, listen, I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm not somebody that just Googles my symptoms and I suddenly have everything. That's not who I am. But here is what I found. And this is what I think is going on. And the fact that I have to lead with that is so frustrating.
What other industry would you tolerate by the person that is practicing the medicine and offering the service to you that you actually have to lead with an I'm sorry that I'm here? They should be catering to you as the consumer.
Please trust me. Don't look at me like I'm crazy.
Every industry does it. I watched a YouTube video and my internet went out and it was working yesterday. So here's the solution I want you to provide. As an expert, you're like, dismissive and say, well, why did you come to me if you know how to do it? So don't start with apologizing. Bring them up to your level of knowledge so they don't talk to you like you're a 5-year-old and expect you to do just what you told them to do. I don't want you to give me stuff I don't want to take. And I'm going to tell you that I know almost as much as you, and you've got to give me the fill-ins that I am paying for through my insurance. That's it.
Yep. Krista says, your pharmacist should have advised you on that. You should have been given an offer to be counseled. Would have been nice.
Was this a while ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure that industry has shored up a little bit since, when we were kids and, it was just a machine. Yeah.
I mean, it was, so I'll give you a quick story and try to not make it gross and TMI. It was a dermatologist that removed something. I had stitches and it got infected. And the dermatologist said, oh, you're allergic to the sutures. Oh, interesting. So take this antibiotic. And I was allergic to the antibiotic. So take this to get rid of your allergic reaction. And I was like, I hate this. Mm-hmm. I feel like something went off the rails here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Julie said, I don't know about you. I get a 4-page dissertation with all of my scripts. And then Krista said health literacy is 100% the biggest issue. No matter how you disseminate the information or who oversees that, the public needs to be educated and motivated to be educated. And you have to have uncaptured medical professionals that give you information, not salesmen who want you to do a thing. And the less questions you ask, the better. It's got to be, I'm telling you, you got to trust your doctor more than anything. And if you get a bad one that you feel like you're just being roped through, get rid of them. We cannot keep giving money to people who are terrible at their job.
Yeah. And RFK got flack because he said, you shouldn't take medical advice from me.
That's what they should say.
Of course we shouldn't. I'm not going to take medical advice from you because you don't know my history and you don't know my background and you don't know if my age and if you're pregnant or not, or if you're predisposed to something, or if you have whatever. Why would people think they're going to take medical advice from someone in Washington who they've never met? He is saying, I am giving you lots of data and lots of information and lots of studies, and then you trust your doctor that is reading those studies and getting that information. Nobody is saying doctors are bad and doctors are untrustworthy and you shouldn't trust your doctor. I'm saying you should get info, you should get medical advice, you should look at everything and make a decision.
All right, we'll end it there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. MLO Bros will be back tomorrow. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.